Welcome, folks. This is a webinar as part of our series. I'm Trevor Ramos, author of How to Get Free Money for College. And we're going to be doing a talk on scholarships, private scholarships specifically, and how to get them, not the money that's offered from the school. So, the stuff that I talk about is mostly going to be about money coming from the schools, but this time we're going to talk about money coming from foundations, charities, other nonprofits. And I have my guest with me, the Scholarship Mama. And her name is Theresa Harris. She's the owner and founder of Scholarship Mama. As a scholarship strategist, Theresa works with families to empower and support them while they navigate the world of higher education. Scholarship Mama focuses on helping the youth of America develop a game plan to complete their college career with less debt. As a scholarship recipient, Theresa earned over $32,000 in scholarships towards the completion of her master's degree in higher education, which she was awarded in 2013. Theresa then began her career as a college financial aid advisor and has not looked back since. In her 15 plus year career, Theresa has earned numerous awards and designations from working in the financial aid department. She's also a member of several professional organizations, such as the National Association of Student Financial Aid Administrators and the Illinois Association of Admissions Counseling. Theresa has also put 3 of her own children through college. So just want to remind you guys, this webinar is being recorded. So if you don't want to be on the recording, you just keep your camera off. But I'm going to turn it over to Theresa, and thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you. And thank you to everyone who joined today. Please feel free to drop your questions in the chat. I am going to try to answer all of your questions. And we're going to get started. By the way, I am excited to be here today. Today is International Women's Day. So happy International Women's Day to all of the women who are online. I want to survey our audience here. If we have any parents, can you please raise your hand? Let me see. Let's check the reaction. Yeah, if we have any parents, can you clap? Give me a hand clap. Awesome. And do we have any students? So if we have any students, give me a thumbs up. Awesome. Okay. I am going to get ready to share my presentation with you. Let's see. Can everyone see the screen? I just want to make sure that you can see the screen. Can you see this?
Yeah.
Okay, great. I'm going to start this from the beginning. Okay, so how to get scholarships from donor charities and foundation. As Trevor mentioned, my name is Theresa Harris, aka Scholarship Mama. I am a college financial aid expert, and I have helped thousands of families save money on their college career. So here's my information offline. Here's where you can find me. You are welcome to email me or send me a message, and I will respond to you. So here's our agenda for today. When should your child apply for scholarships? Some common types of scholarships, tips for finding scholarships, scholarship search engines. We're going to share some scholarship search success tips, as well as common essay mistakes. And I have an asterisk by there because I'm going to take really a deep dive into common essay mistakes. This is where I hear most from students. As a scholarship reader as well, this is where I see errors. So I want to share a little bit more about common essay mistakes. We're going to talk about developing a strategy, best practices. There are scholarship scams, and then I'm going to share words of wisdom. So take a look at this picture. It's obvious, like it's a stack of money. It's a stack of money on a football field. It's actually a stack of hundreds. 17 feet high. I have a question for those that are on the webinar, and I'm trying to get, okay. So my question is, what would you do with $293 a month for the next 5 years? I want you to think about that. What would you do? You got $293 a month for the next 5 years. What would you do with that? Think about that. I would love to know what would you do with that. Now, let me explain a little bit more about this picture. Mark Brown, the CEO, and he's the former CEO of Federal Student Aid. He says student loan debt is equivalent to a football field, stack of 100s, 17 feet high. Student loan debt is $1.5 trillion and growing. And this is what Federal Student Aid says. This is the equivalent of student loan debt. So this is how much America owes in student loan debt when you put it on the football field. Now let's put it into some context. 17 feet high, the average height of a male is 5 feet and 7 inches. So like 2 males standing on top of each other would be what, about 14 to 15 feet? The average height of a female is 5 feet and 2 inches. And so 2 females. And so pretty much, this is how much student loan debt is. The average student loan borrower pays $293 a month. 1 in 4 Americans owe student loan debt. Chances are you probably know someone who owes student loan debt. And that is why scholarships is a critical component of the financial aid package, and families and students should apply for scholarships more. So scholarships is financial support awarded to students to help pay for their education. It's based on various criteria, which usually reflects the values and purpose of the donor or founder. Oh, I see my, I'm gonna have to erase that, just 1 second. Okay, so there we go. Okay, so scholarships is money that doesn't have to be paid back. So when should students start applying for scholarships? They should start applying for scholarships now. And I'm going to share a strategy with you at the end of this presentation on how students can get started applying for scholarships now. So here are some common types of scholarships. There are merit-based scholarships. This is based on a set of criteria. The criteria varies amongst donors, charities, and foundation. There are also need-based scholarships. These scholarships are based on financial aid given to students based on financial need. Qualification is usually determined on family income. And then there are scholarships for athletes. That is based on one ability to play sports. But these are not only common types of scholarships, there are others. And so I want to let you know other types of scholarships that are available for families to apply for. So there are scholarships by age. And a lot of times what families do is they apply for scholarships when students are seniors, but there are scholarships for juniors as well as freshmen. And in some cases, there are scholarships for 5-year-olds. Google has that. And so don't wait to apply for scholarships when your student become a senior. You can start applying for scholarships much earlier. There are also scholarships by major that includes trade. There are also military scholarships, gender scholarships, scholarships for disability, hobby, interest, and talent, grade level. There's also local, regional, and national scholarship. The chances of winning local scholarships is much greater. than national. So please look for local scholarships as well. There are scholarships for international students as well as LGBTQ. There are scholarships for circumstances as well as minority, parent, religious, and lastly, there are also scholarships for state scholarships. So there are scholarships everywhere. You can look for scholarships outside of the school. These are private scholarship opportunities. Here are some tips for finding scholarships. First, students should start with their high school counselors. The high school counselors have a wealth of information for students, so start there. The college to trade school students are attending, as well as other colleges' website. The University of Hawaii has several scholarships on their website. You got local and or community organization that offer scholarships, as well as print material. And I wanted to share that with you because a lot of our families do not look at print material. They always look at the internet, and that's fine. But there are opportunities in print too. I hope you can see this. This is a Peterson Guide for Scholarship Grants and Prizes. It is a thick book, about 1,000 pages. But it is divided up into sections, and so like hobby, interest, as well as state and major. And so you can find scholarships in print material. So I just wanted to share that information with families because sometimes they look online to find scholarships, but there are opportunities in print material as well. And then you have local government as well as local businesses. And so you want to ask your local businesses in your area about scholarship opportunities as well. And then you also want to ask your employer, so students, if you work for the students that is on this webinar, if you work, you want to ask your employer. Parents, you want to ask your employer as well. And then you have church or religious organizations. If you are a member of a church, ask your church, do they have scholarships? Parents Union, social media, scholarship search engines, we're going to talk about those as well. There are many, but I have a few for you. And then lastly, we have veterans organizations. So here are some scholarship search engines. You might have heard a lot of these. It's collegegreenlight.com. We also have a Scholarship America, FastWeb, CAPEX, and then UNCF, scholarship search engine, as well as JLV College Counseling, scholarships.com, scholarshipsexperts.com, and then we have Career One Stop. Now I want to say something about Career One Stop. This is an excellent search engine. It is managed by the Department of Labor. In addition to scholarships on this search engine, a student can also research their career and the potential earnings of their career as well. So this is an excellent search engine that students should go to. And then there's many more. I do have a list of these search engines as well as some others. If you'd like to have that, once this webinar is over with, I will put my contact information in the chat so that you can email me and I will send that to you. So here's what we want to talk about, some scholarship success tips. It's really based on academics, community service, and extracurricular activity. As a scholarship reader, this is what I noticed the private scholarship providers are looking for. And so this is what we're going to talk about right now. Academics. You must have a strong academic record. College prep curriculum is encouraged, and then 4 years of core subjects as well as SAT and SAT. Now let's talk about the strong academic record. I want to be clear with you because I do research scholarships, and private scholarship providers are looking for academic records actually that start with 2.0. So you don't have to be an A student to receive scholarships. You don't even have to be a B student to receive scholarships. There are numerous scholarships out there for students to apply to. So I just want to say you don't have to be an A student. I actually saw a scholarship provider who was asking for a GPA of 1.9. And so in some cases, you don't even have to be a C student. And in some cases, a scholarship provider don't sometimes ask for GPA. They actually just want you to have extracurricular activities. And we'll talk about that more. But I don't want you to get hung up on the GPA, because a lot of students don't apply for scholarships because they figure they have to be an A student. And you don't. You do not have to be an A student. Now, in terms of SAT and ACT, this year and last year, scholarship providers, they did waive that, but some students had already taken the SAT and ACT. So that might be changing, but for now, some of the scholarship providers are waiving that. And so you want to definitely take a look at that criteria and make sure that you qualify for that scholarship. Community service. That consists of leadership, length of participation, and then depth of commitment. I worked with a student who was Volunteer of the Year. He had over 200 hours in community service, so his length of participation was long. That showed a commitment to that particular organization as well. But I want you to know, I've worked with students also who serve with community organizations for 2 weeks. And so when they say length of participation, that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to volunteer with that organization for a year or for 2 years. The length of participation is what the scholarship provider sees that is. And so they will talk about that in the eligibility. And so you want to make sure that you've taken a close look at the eligibility to see the length of participation that the scholarship provider is asking for. But that is what they mean by length of participation and then depth of commitment. If you were a leader in this particular organization, in your community service organization, students, you need to talk about your leadership role in the community service organization as well. If you started out as a volunteer and you became a lead volunteer, then that's the information that the scholarship provider wants to know. So you want to talk about that more. And then let's talk about extracurricular activities. And this is why I feel like our scholars, a lot of our scholars fall into this particular activity, because extracurricular activity does consist of work, hobbies, athletics, arts, clubs, and organization. So a lot of our scholars fall into this particular category. So with extracurricular activities, some of the scholarship providers are looking for leadership and initiative, and then length of participation. But I want to say, parents and to students, a lot of students work. And so a lot of students have a work background. Do not discount your work. That is considered an extracurricular activity. So I want to say, do not discount your work at all. And you want to start right now developing what I call a scholarship resume, meaning, jot down everything that you are doing. Jot down everything. If you are a senior now and you had extracurricular activities as a freshman, jot down that information, because over time you forget all what you did and your contributions. And so you definitely want to jot down that information. So here's what I want to talk about, because this is where I hear a lot from students about common essay mistakes. Losing focus. Here's what I want to say to our scholars. Make sure that when you start writing your essay that you are free from distractions. You want to make sure that you have your cell phone off, the TV off, and you want to be free from distractions when you're writing your essay, because you don't want to lose focus. Not following the directions. Please pay attention to the scholarship provider directions. Reread the application and pay attention to the directions. Writing a sob story. This doesn't mean that the scholarship provider is insensitive to what goes on in families. What they really want to know is, how did you overcome it? So whatever it is, that's what the scholarship provider wants to know. How did you overcome that? And then not proofreading the essay. You want to make sure that you proofread the essay. You want someone else to actually proofread the essay with you. And then submitting the same essay to several scholarship providers. We're going to talk about that in our strategy in a couple of slides from now on how you can move parts of your essay to submit. And then in terms of strategies, you just want to get started. Scholars, you want to free write. You want to continuously write free of expectations or self-criticism. Students, you need to come back to your draft after a few hours like a fresh pair of eyes. You need to read out loud for tone, fluency, and message. I use Google Translate. Use whatever works best for you. And then you want to remember the audience. You want to be personal and descriptive. And then you want to guard against the overuse of I did this or that, exclamation points or caps. This is what I see as a scholarship reader. I read scholarships on behalf of foundations and organizations. And this is what I see what students struggle with. And so I just wanted to go in depth a little bit more about this because students struggle with writing. And these are some excellent tips for students to get started with their writing skills, because really the scholarship providers, they want to know more about you and they want you to write in your own voice, free from going to the thesaurus, free from asking others. They want you to write in your own voice. So I wanted to just take a little deep dive into some tips because this is what scholarship providers are looking for. So I want to offer you some more strategies of finding scholarships. If you know what are your career goals, that would work. That would help you find more scholarships. What academic fields might your child major? Does your child have any hobbies or special interests? Have your child been an officer or leader of a group? Where do you live? Where have you lived? What is your family's ethnic heritage? Families, if you can identify with more than one ethnic heritage, then apply for those scholarships as well. Is your child male or female? There are some scholarships that are targeted males, and there are some that targeted females. And so there are a lot of scholarship opportunities out there for that as well. And then what is your child's age? So here's what I want to talk about this strategy. This strategy was developed by Michelle Howard. She is Chicago Public Schools Scholarship Manager. She allowed me to share this strategy with you. This is a strategy she developed while working with students. This strategy is based on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I don't know your schedule. So it very well might be Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday for you, but this is a framework, parents and scholars, for you to start getting your scholarships together and submitting those scholarships. And so on the day of the week, for instance, on Monday, what you want to do is you want to review scholarship resources and identify every scholarship you're eligible to apply for. And then on Monday, the task 2 can be chart out each scholarship, the deadline, and items you need to complete the application. For example, the number of recommendations needed, and if a resume is required. Task 3, you can review all the essay questions required for each scholarship. On Wednesday, you can complete all the paperwork, including submitting requests for recommendation, transcripts, and etc. And then task 2, complete all the essays. In some instances, you can take components of different paragraphs and move the essays that you have used in the past to craft a new essay. And this is what I was speaking about earlier, that you can take different components of your paragraph and craft new essays. You might have to write some additional information, but there might be a possibility that you can move around your essays to different private scholarship providers. And then task 3 on Wednesday, you can ensure you have all paperwork completed including the actual application. Here's what you could do on Friday. You could review and proofread all information you plan to submit. You can submit everything you need to for each application and keep a log of what applications you submitted. And then on Friday, your last task can be sending follow-up emails to your references to ensure they know your component is done. So this is a framework, families, for you to get started on. But again, I don't know your schedule. You can change this around to have it work for you, but this is definitely a winning framework for you to start applying for scholarships. And this is a strategy. So you definitely want to follow this framework. Here are some best practices. Complete the FAFSA. And families, when your child go off to college every year, as long as they are in college, you want to complete the FAFSA. The FAFSA opens October the 1st every year. So complete the FAFSA. The sooner, the better. You want to ask your child to check their social media for inappropriate content. Scholarship providers, as well as colleges, look at social media. And then you want to make sure you use professional email address. You want to ask for letters of recommendation now. And then you want to submit your scholarship application 7 days before the deadline. And then when mailing the application, request a delivery confirmation. Now I want to stop right here. Right now, the mail is running behind. And so when mailing scholarship applications, I would suggest that you mail them 2 to 3 weeks before the deadline, the paper application. That way you will ensure that it makes it on time. So that's my suggestion to you. Families, you also want to make a copy of your scholarship application as well. So everything that you mail, please make a copy of that. So in case it get lost, you can't just send it again. So make a copy and before you mail that information. And then you want to prioritize your scholarship applications.
Hey, Theresa, why do you recommend submitting the application 7 days before the deadline?
That is a great question. Definitely 7 days. I recommend that because of everybody is online now. And so in case the internet goes down, the scholarship provider website goes down, you will have submitted that information prior to the deadline. And so that's why I recommend it. Also, sometimes scholarship providers close the application before the deadline. And so you want to make sure that, once you're doing all of that work, that you will be able to submit that application. You don't want any hangups, for instance, if your internet goes down or if the scholarship provider website goes down as well with all the traffic with everyone submitting that. So I suggest that you submit the application 7 days before the deadline. And the worst case scenario, this is a real life example that I had. I had a student that actually ended up with the stomach flu. She got sick. And so she wasn't able to submit her application, although she actually did it because she was in the hospital sick. So don't even wait to the last minute. Please, once you get done with your application, just submit it.
Thank you.
So let's talk about scholarship scams. They are out there. Request personal banking information, don't apply for that scholarship. If a scholarship provider requires an application fee, don't apply for that scholarship. If you guaranteed to win, don't apply for that scholarship. And then if funds are sent to the winner via wire transfer, do not apply for that scholarship as well. Most than likely, it is a scholarship scam. And I just wanted to share a snippet from my podcast. Dr. Tiffany Two Gathers is a scholarship provider for Chicago Public Schools as well as Dallas Public Schools. I interviewed her on my podcast and I asked her why should scholars apply for scholarships? And this is what she said. So I just wanted to share this with you.
Well, it's important for a number of reasons. It provides scholars with obviously access to college. Many students aren't able to go to college because of the costs associated with it. And so it reduces the financial burden of a college education. It also, well, that's the primary reason it reduces the financial burden, but also it allows you to, depending on the type of scholarship you get, it allows you to do other things with your time. A lot of students, particularly first generation students, because these are the scholars that I normally work with, they have to work part-time or even full-time, to even pay for their studies. So that right there frees up their time if they're able to secure scholarships to pay for college. So those are the primary reasons why I think it's important for scholars to apply.
All right. So I want to just offer some words of wisdoms to families and to scholars. You want to apply for as many scholarships as possible. Just apply. Students don't have to be an A student to apply for scholarships. You want to be persistent and remain diligent. Many local scholarships are not awarded until the spring, so don't give up. And then don't forget, several small scholarships can add up. I am going to share a scholarship opportunity with families once this presentation ends. I'm going to put that information in the chat. There's a scholarship opportunity available for high school seniors, as well as undergraduates and master students. And so I'm going to share that information with you. This scholarship opportunity opened up today, and I would like to share that with you. Want to give some of the resources. So Federal Student Aid, Chicago Public School Manager, and Peterson Scholarships, as well as Dr. Tiffany Two Gathers. Families, I want you to know you cannot win scholarships if you don't apply. You need to apply for scholarships. Scholarships is a critical component of the financial aid process. And at this time, I want to know, do you have any questions? I'm going to stop sharing. And I am going to look in the chat.
Okay, so yeah, one of the questions in the chat was asking, when you listed out all those websites for scholarships, they wanted to go back a slide. But you said you were going to share that anyway. So could you just go over how they would get access to that?
I am so sorry, Trevor, I didn't hear you.
So the scholarship links,
yes.
He was asking to go back a slide, but you mentioned that you were going to show them how to get to that.
Yes. I can send you those links. I'm going to put my email address. And I can't go back. You want me to go back to the slide, Trevor?
No, not really.
Okay.
They'll have all the links on that document.
Okay.
Okay. Awesome. So yeah, I mean, when I looked for scholarships for some of my clients and so forth, some of them require you to have low income, and some of my clients, their income, nobody's really, not everybody has the income that would qualify. Say, some of them require incomes under 50,000 or 60,000. Are there enough scholarships for someone who has an income over 60,000?
It is. And that is a great question. That is a great question. Thanks so much for asking that. So I am working with a scholarship provider right now. And one of the application does mention that they are looking for low income. But in addition to the scholarship provider say low income, that depends on what the scholarship provider considers low income. So all the time, the example that you use, like $60,000 with a family of 4 possibly could be low income. And so scholarship providers look for income, but it's not, sometimes it's not our definition of low income, if that kind of makes sense. Sometimes it's not, because our definition sometime of low income could be under $25,000, $30,000. I mean, technically, it's kind of hard to live off of that, but some scholarship providers do consider $50,000, $60,000 is low income as well. So it does depend on their the scholarship provider definition of low income. And some of them are really specific, like they do say we take the EFC off the FAFSA. And so if the FAFSA say that your estimated family contribution is higher than, I think that's expected contribution, estimated family contribution is higher than 2,000, then that's not considered low income. So they look at the FAFSA. The EFC sometimes doesn't all the time have to be zero, is what I'm really trying to say. They are starting to take more things into consideration in terms of low income.
Yeah, so with all that being said, let's say your income is $200,000. Do you have any business applying for these private scholarships?
So if your income is more than $200,000, in some cases too, there's a lot of scholarships out there that doesn't even look at your income at all. They're looking like at the student's grades, as well as extracurricular activities, community services. Some don't. I just saw a scholarship the other day where they were just looking at community service.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. And then you talked about parent qualities. So I guess there are scholarships that have less to do with the students' qualities and the parents' qualities. What are some examples of things that they might be looking for the parents to have in order to?
So sometimes they're looking for parents to have bachelor's degrees. In some cases is associate degrees as well, or even single parents. So scholarship for single parents on behalf of their child, of course. So if you're a single parent and you have a child that's going to college, there are some opportunities for single parents as well.
Cool. Yeah, and then you did mention, and this is just a comment, you did mention states, governments, also cities. So one of the easiest ways sometimes is to just look up what city you live in and to see if they have a scholarship on the city website, or sometimes you can just go to the city council meeting and talk to the city manager when the meeting is over and ask them if there's a scholarship that city offers. I know in a city that I lived in, I did that, and he told me about a scholarship that only 6 people had applied for. So that's another place you can look, especially if you're in a small city.
That's true. You can families, you can also Google local scholarships. Just an FYI for you, you can Google local scholarships in your city, and it should come up.
Yeah, if you guys, if you have a student that likes to speak, that likes to give presentations or can give a presentation if they were prepared, a lot of the times your school has a Rotary Club or a Kiwanis Club that supports that school, Lions Club, and they offer generally a speech competition every year. The award ranges from $300 to $500, and they will only give it to the people from the school that they support, not necessarily a student who has been involved in Interact, which is the high school version of Rotary, or Key Club, which is a high school version of Kiwanis. Sometimes it's open to any student that they support. So yeah, that's awesome stuff. Okay, so we got the link up there.
Yes.
All right, cool. So this is a huge world that I don't even really discuss. And that is, once you've gotten all the money from the financial aid office, what else can you tap into in order to get a scholarship? And the cool thing is you can use a lot of the parts of the essays that your kid has already written. So this is really ideal for a student who's a senior who has all the drafts of the essays that they wrote. And that's an important thing to talk about too. So we talk about essays a lot. Is that typical that these scholarships will require an essay?
That's a great question. So there are a lot of opportunities. Some scholarships don't require essays. They have what you call sweepstakes scholarships, as well as no essay scholarships. But I've also seen some like with 140 characters, like they want you to write a sentence to this prompt in 140 characters or less. But for the most part, I do see essays anywhere from like 250 words.
Oh, sorry. Theresa, I muted you by accident. Sorry.
Okay.
Yes.
The answer to your question is they do have opportunities where you don't have to write essays. They call those no essay scholarships. And those are opportunities out there as well as sweepstakes scholarships.
Okay, awesome. And then are recommendation letters a common thing for these scholarships?
Recommendations are common. Recommendation letters are common. Here's the things though, family. You don't necessarily have to get a recommendation letter from your child's teacher or counselor unless that is specified. You can get a recommendation letter from your pastor, from the coach, as well as work. If any volunteer services can speak to the student background, you can get recommendation letters that way too as well.
Okay, so what if you're not in high school? So I mean, I guess this is timely information for a high school senior, but let's say you're at a community college, or you're at a four-year college, or you're at a graduate school. Is this information still applicable for you?
It is. It is. And in terms of recommendation letters at the graduate level and as well as in community college, sometimes they ask, the scholarship provider asks for recommendation letters. Usually I see those students get recommendation letters like for former teachers. And so they're still like in contact with their teachers, or from someone at work, like their boss or a coworker that can speak to their character.
Okay. Yeah, actually, I wasn't even talking about recommendation letters, but thank you for that. I'm saying some of these links that you discussed and some of these strategies, are they applicable for someone who's already in college or at graduate school?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I always say once scholars get to college, you still should apply for scholarships. You still should apply for scholarship. It doesn't stop once you graduate high school.
Okay, just so you know, this presentation is being recorded, and it'll be up on YouTube. And you have Theresa's information, if you know, because she has cheat sheets and things like that she can probably share with you on this stuff. But can you go over a little bit about how your program works? So you mentioned that you do work with people. How does that work?
Yeah, thank you. So I find private scholarships for college-bound families. I usually work with high schoolers, so parents of high school, and I find private scholarships for them. What I do is I send the scholar a detailed questionnaire. Once they complete that questionnaire, and it's about maybe 15 to 20 questions, because we want to find scholarships that tailor to the student. And so once they complete that questionnaire, my team and I, we go find scholarships based on the responses that we received on the questionnaire. And so we find scholarships for families.
So you fill out this questionnaire, try to say things that will, show what kind of, I guess, what's up this student's alley. So if the student likes to play drums, then we want to mention that. The student, was, in the Scouts, you want to mention that. And then you go and you find things that are tied to those kinds of interests and accomplishments.
Yes, yes, and that is actually a question on the on the questionnaire. I asked them, do you have a background in extracurricular activities? I say, for instance, there's a scholarship out there for asthmatics, and there is. There's a scholarship out there for people who have asthma. And so something unique about you. Those are the things that I try to drill down on in the scholarship questionnaire that I send, so we can find those detailed scholarships for students.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool. So you can cut out a lot of the search work just by finding the scholarships for you. And you know, if you've already gotten some essays written, say for instance, if you're a senior, if you still have some of that stuff, you might be able to use it just to apply to these schools. So that's awesome. And how do we get in contact with you again, Teresa?
Oh, you can email me at info@scholarshipmama.com. I put that in the chat.
Okay, information is in the chat. All right, you guys. So we're gonna wrap this up at 11:15. Really appreciate your time, and you know where to find us. It's been a pleasure. You guys have a good rest of the week. Take care. Bye.